everyone, it's the Pink Dream, Alex Gracia, and I just wanted to let you know that for all your wrestling news, you need to tune in to Ehren and Tom at the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show with myself, Ehren and Tom. Tonight, no special guest. It's just us two in our blind tag version, and we are going to discuss all things pro wrestling, especially things such as AEW right now and the WWE Draft that just recently just happened. So, Tom, how are things going?
Good. Going good. There's a lot of stuff going on with the draft. I mean, it's the draft. Like, I don't really put a whole lot of stock into it. It's always interesting to see where everybody's going to end up so that you can kind of maybe fantasy book what they're going to do. But ultimately, I don't think it matters a whole lot because I still feel like it's the same people going to the same places. It's just maybe a little bit fresher than it was 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it was like, I felt like 70% of SmackDown just moved to Raw. You know, it was just, they just basically switched nights, you know, and that's all it entailed to me. I didn't think they really did anything to get me super interested. You know, I know you and I had some conversations before the draft ever happened a few weeks ago, and I said I could really see, you know, with Big E being the champion, for them to set up Seth Rollins coming back and Edge coming back. And that did happen. So I'm kind of glad on that front. I think a match with Big E versus Seth would really show off how really good Big E can be inside of the ring. And Seth's character right now is such a sleazeball character. And to have Big E kind of feed off that, I think that's the right move and right direction after you get through the crown jewel. And then, of course, on the SmackDown side, you know, I figured Drew would head over, you know, for Roman. But there were a few surprises, especially the women. I was a little bit surprised because usually WWE does not put the spouses with each other. They just do it just to be hateful and mean and rude. But Becky jumps to Raw. Bianca jumps to Raw. So that feud's going to kind of continue, it seems. That's going on right now. And then you got Charlotte and Sasha, you know, over on the SmackDown side. But the big one to me, and it could be a wild card, is that they broke up the tag team of Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. Months ago, we discussed how we believe Shotzi could be a major player in WWE. And she'll be on SmackDown, where Tegan now, I feel, could be a little lost on the Raw side. And to me, they were a perfect choice as the tag team champions on the women's side.
Yeah, I think they always forget that they have these tag team championships that they, you know, it's all nonsense when it comes down to it because they don't really care. I think it's a way for them to maybe utilize some top women's talent when they're not getting pushed in the main event scene so that they're on TV. But I don't think they do the division, the tag team division, any justice by doing that. I don't think they care. They just really don't. But, you know, I'm excited. Hit Row coming to the main roster. So we'll see what happens with that. There's a lot of potential there. Xia Li, SmackDown, right? If I remember that. If I remember that correctly, I think she's going to SmackDown.
She could be. We may be wrong on that one, but she did get drafted. She's going to the main roster.
So I'm curious to what their plans are with her because, you know, they haven't had the best track record of bringing just about any of the women up, but especially if they're not that stereotypical women that, you know, Vince likes as the champion. So if it's anybody out of that mold, I don't feel like they usually get the opportunities that they deserve. But with somebody like her, there's so much that they could do that I'm excited to hope that, things change and we could see something really important come out of that.
Yeah, Zaya is one of those talents that I still don't know what she is yet. I love the look, I love the presentation, but most of her matches on NXT were cut short. She wasn't given a long period of time to wrestle. At times can be a little stiff. And you are right, she is on the SmackDown side, and I remember that because Baszler was also drafted to SmackDown, and they made a big deal of how great of a striker and fierce fighter Xia Li was. And I kind of thought, wow, that's kind of interesting that they're going to have both of these great combative women on the SmackDown side. I just hate the fact that for the last 2-3 months we were invested in this Xia Li storyline on NXT, and she's got this little faction kind of going on, and then it's just kind of cut in half all of a sudden. But Zaya's going to be a wild card. I do expect Shayna Baszler to get a tremendous push. She was already kind of getting a push right now on Raw. I think they're going to start elevating her a little bit more on the SmackDown side as well. Rich Holland was another one. I was kind of shocked when they went ahead and brought him up, especially with the formula for NXT 2.0 right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just wonder if they see something and they have a bigger plan that we're not privy to, obviously, that they've already got a huge thing laid out for him. Otherwise, I don't know why you would bring him up right now, especially with everything that's going on. And then they're also bringing Stevenson early, so to me, that's real early for him. I may be completely wrong, and he may be a huge star in the next 3 months. But, I just wonder if they're actually going to use those guys all the time, or if they're going to be, on the sidelines. Maybe they put them with somebody so that they get some exposure, but they're not actually in the thick of things just yet. It'll be interesting.
Well, the thing with Gable Steveson is, NCAA now has this new rule where they can get paid. And so he is still going to remain in college, is the direction from what I'm hearing. And then he will be spending time training in Minnesota to be a pro wrestler. So he's going to be getting that training. And then when they feel like he's ready, possibly around WrestleMania time, he could be elevated right there. And I just think they were just trying to make a splash and get some people talking because the draft's pretty lackluster. Let's be honest. I mean, there's really, we always, how was this person drafted before this person? We always break down that conversation, like who in their right mind's taking Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo before Sasha Banks gets drafted. There's always that nonsense. And so I think Gable was just to let people know, like, hey, we did sign him. He is coming, and I expect some pretty good things from him. He looks like he's a pretty good athlete if he's getting trained by the right people. Of course, a match against Brock kind of makes sense a little bit, down the road. Lashley, Gable's the baby face and Lashley's the monster heel could work for many as well. So, yeah, I really enjoy Hit Row. We've been high on them. It just really scares me when it comes to them. It just does. They've got a lot of momentum down in NXT, and I'm just not quite sure what they're going to do with them. But a lot of talent there in Hit Row for sure.
Yeah, I'm hopeful and excited to see what they do with them. I'm, down to the deepest of my hearts, I'm a WWE guy. Even though they do some terrible things to some talent sometimes and just do not show their potential and utilize them correctly. But this is one of those cases where I'm actually very excited and very hopeful because I just like everything about their act, and I think it could be something huge, and I really don't want it to get ruined.
They're kind of tweeners too. They've got this heel swag persona, but they're also cool and hip. And they were kind of remind me of New Day early on where people didn't quite know whether to cheer for them, boo for them. And that could be the perfect first matchup is Hit Row and New Day.
Yeah, I could see that. I think they're definitely cooler than what New Day was at the beginning. At the beginning, we were just like, what is this?
Yeah, there's no church choir. That's for sure. Yeah.
So we'll see. Some other silly things that they do. So when they asked them what it feels like to be moved to this brand or that brand and they give their reactions on screen and stuff, it's just so much nonsense. Like what stake do they really have in it? Like it makes absolutely no sense. And I wish somebody would just be like, I'm glad I'm going to SmackDown because, that show's only 2 hours and my main event's going to matter. That's what I wish they would say, because let's be honest, it's the same fans going to Raw shows as SmackDown shows. So it's not anything different. It's just you may be wrestling a few different people here or there, but they make such a big deal about it on screen that it's almost laughable.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. And they never stick with it. Let's be honest. And I'm glad last night they said, it's not to go in effect until October 22nd or 23rd because they're already running people back and forth. But we'll see how it all plays out next couple of weeks. I am excited to kind of see what some people can do on the main roster. Perhaps there are some fresh matchups. But, with the Crown Jewel coming up and the fallout from that, there could be some champions moved. I don't expect Roman to lose. And Brock's a free agent. So, there is a possibility it could happen. But yeah. I still expect Roman to retain. And then, of course, Big E with Drew heading over, I can fully expect, Big E to retain as well.
Yeah, I think Brock Lesnar being a free agent is fantastic, honestly. Who knows what they're going to do with that. But if they play their cards right, that could be a big deal for them as a draw on both shows too. So, and I don't think everybody needs that or there's no point for a draft, but it makes sense if it's Brock because, Brock gets what Brock wants and that's just kind of how it is. So I'm excited to see what they attempt to do with that.
You may have missed it. NXT 2.0 is actually going on right now as we are recording this. Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship at Halloween Havoc. Your overall thoughts on Braun Breaker and 2.0 so far?
I have no issues with 2.0. There's a lot of people dogging it. I'm all about changing things up from time to time. Don't get me wrong, I loved NXT, but I have no issues with the look. I have no issues with what they've been doing so far. Braun Breaker, stupid name, but other than that, I'm all in. I'm curious to see how this goes and what he can bring to the table. I have no issues at all except for his name.
Yeah, it's a terrible name. It's, you would think that if you're really wanting someone to get over, you would do your best and put your best effort in front to get this guy over. He would have been immediately over, which he is, if you would just said he was one of the Steiners. Right off the bat. Here's another second-generation wrestler. He's a pedigree, but they just can't seem to do that. They don't want to do those type of things that would make it so easy. And then they can't understand why people crap on a product or crap on a talent. I've enjoyed Braun so far. I love his promo skills already. He reminds me so much of Scott. He's just got that nice delivery. He's got a great look to him. And we're going to find out really, really quick how great he is or how good he possibly can be because Ciampa is one of the best.
Oh, yeah. For sure. You're giving him the spotlight to see what he can do. And I don't think they're going to give him that opportunity if they don't think he's ready for it. I don't know. Big things. I hope they keep bringing in some good talent. They've had so much good talent come through there that they just haven't used and have come and gone and different things. And I like the thought of bringing in some people that haven't been utilized elsewhere, that WWE can say that they created on their own and things like that. I think that's awesome too. I think there's room for both. But yeah, 2.0. We'll see what they turn out to be in the next few months. But so far, I'm good with it.
They're real hypocritical on, they're okay with bringing back some of the women from the main roster. Ember Moon. Now Mandy Rose is getting a tremendous push, but they're so scared to do that with some of these guys that they're not using. I think, we've also talked about this before. Jeff Hardy would have been a great person to bring to NXT. Even in a tag team like Mansoor and Ali to take on MSK would have been great. Sheamus would be phenomenal. I would love to see Sheamus versus Tommaso Ciampa. And then you have someone like Dominic Mysterio, who I do believe he has a pretty good future. But he needs a little bit more time. And why not go against maybe Johnny Gargano in a feud? I mean, that's some of the things that I would have implemented, but they're so scared. And there's that double standard that Ember Moon doesn't have a place anymore, so we'll send her down. Mandy Rose doesn't have a place anymore, so we'll send her down.
Yeah, it really doesn't add up. I don't know. You talk about, Mandy Rose was the center of attention for a good while, with her storyline with Otis, and even before that with Sonya and everything that was going on, to not have anything for her, nothing at all. I mean, why couldn't she go to the 3-hour show? I mean, you got 3 hours to fill and you can't find a 15-minute segment each Monday night for Mandy Rose, but so you got to bring her to NXT, but you are not willing to let some other talent shine. I really think it would be a breath of fresh air for someone like Sheamus, who is putting in the work, every live event, every TV, and he's not going out there and just slapping on holds. He's out there putting in the work, and to reward him, I would think would be a blessing for him to go down there and be with some fresh talent, to be able to not only showcase himself, but to also help bring these younger guys up to his level. I think it's just a missed opportunity all the way around. I don't know. It's hard to try to wrap your head around why they decide for some and not the others. But I'm with you. It seems like, other than what, maybe Finn, it's mainly been females that went back to NXT. So I can't think of anyone else, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I think Finn rejuvenated himself, when he went back down. And, Finn's always puts on good matches, but I think people started believing in him again. And then when he popped up on the main roster, they took him serious. And, I know there's a lot of Jeff Hardy fans out there. Me personally, I don't want to see Jeff Hardy near the main event. That's just me. But I could see an intriguing storyline where Jeff's doing this one last run, and it's his last opportunity. And you could really build that up. And I think it would be very over. But I can also see Jeff Hardy going to NXT and really becoming a huge star once again. He's a star. I don't think he's a huge star to a lot of people right now, but he could become a huge star once again for them and kind of carry that brand.
Well, I think the problem is the booking that he's been given since he's been there. I mean, even before Matt left, he ain't won very many matches. If you were going to go back and look to see how many matches he's won versus lost, there ain't too many wins on his list. It's terrible what they've done, and I don't think it's helped anyone else either. So I really don't know what the purpose of it is. And I kind of disagree with you in a way about him being in the main event scene, but it's only because they have booked him the way that he has, that I don't think that he feels like he should be there. But I think they could turn that around, but it's going to take some time. And it may take a stint in NXT to build him up there and then come back to the main roster for one last, run for the belt. I feel like he's still over with the crowd. They know what's going to happen. They know it's never going to be anything that it should be. It's not going to be the level he deserves. And he ain't even going to be able to put in the work that he can do because they don't give him the opportunity to do it. And I think that's the biggest problem. And they just need to start over with him. He's money. I mean, they know he sells merch. He still gets pops. Even losing as much as he does, he still gets the crowd pops. So if they could turn that around and invest in him, he could have another really good run in him, I do believe. Yeah,
there's a lot of people calling for the Willow character, and that may be something that could really rejuvenate him as well. But again, it's a logical thing, and WWE won't do logical things. So there you go. We'll switch over to AEW real quick. Your thoughts on Omega versus Daniel Bryan? We haven't had a chance to talk about that match, but your thoughts about that match?
See, a lot of people didn't like the ending. I did. I thought it was great. I was invested in every moment of that match. And in a way I didn't want it to end, but I knew it had to. And the thing about the time limit draw was that I didn't realize that it was coming up on the time limit. I was so invested in that match that I was more shocked that the 30 minutes had elapsed than, oh my gosh, that's the finish. So after reflecting on it for a day or so, I was all good with it. I want to see it again. And to me, it was 50-50. And I think it's a lot better than a distraction finish. We're so used to seeing those, whether it's something silly by, someone literally just, walking out to the ramp and distracting you in a roll up like WWE does about 50% of their matches, or someone just interfering. I would have rather seen, if you're not going to do an actual finish, then I think that's the best way to do it in that circumstance. Now, I wouldn't do that every week, but for that particular match, because, going into it, it was like, there's no way that Daniel Bryan's going to lose his first match. But Kenny Omega isn't really at a place that he needs to be losing either. So I went into it with a different mindset that I would if it was a WWE match. And I was like, I don't know what they've booked for this. So I'm just going to live in the moment and see what happens. So I was absolutely thrilled with the way it ended, and I'm excited for more stories to build later on.
Yeah, they'll definitely do the rematch. The match itself to me was a great Japanese style match. A lot of great back and forth. The crowd was really hot and electric. And I was really into the match. I didn't think that Daniel Bryan was going to lose. I really thought he was going to win, especially as non-title. Usually, they throw out the non-title. It kind of benefits the challenger in those situations because it leads to the rematch. But as soon as the 28-minute mark hit, and he said, and I'm like you, I didn't even think nothing about the time limit at all. And then they're like 28 minutes, 2 minutes remaining. I was like, oh no. They're doing the time limit draw. Oh no. And it just immediately hit. So the last 2 minutes for me, I was already like, oh man. Like, I don't know. I kind of wish they didn't even say 2 minutes remaining. And then the bell just rang. And then everybody's like, what happened? And then they said the time limit has expired. Because it really sucked the air out of me. Because, a lot of matches, we can kind of see the stuff that's about to happen and coming. And when they gave that, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. They're really going to do a time limit draw.
I don't remember hearing that. So,
and the announcers were talking about it nonstop.
Yeah, so that helped me because I wasn't. I don't know if I had tuned them out or what was going on at the time that I wasn't really paying attention to the announcers, but I didn't hear them or wasn't paying attention to what they were saying when it come to the time limit. So I was completely shocked. So I don't know. I can definitely see that if I had known that the time was about to elapse, I may have felt a little differently about it. But I was in this state of mind where I didn't realize it was about to end.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get the rematch. Like I said, the match was really great. They got 5 stars from some people, and some people rated it lower just because of the time limit. You can say what you want about match star ratings or whatever. There are 5-star matches I can remember I really didn't like at all. So it's to each his own, and I think that's the good part about pro wrestling. Real quick before we get off here, King of the Ring. Jumping back to WWE real quick. King of the Ring is coming up, and so is the Queen's Crown. I just want to know, we don't even have the field out of who's in it. But if you had to book a king for WWE and a queen coming out of these 2 tournaments, who are the 2 superstars you're wanting to give it
to? So just off of the top of my head, the king that comes to mind is Seth Rollins at the moment. Just because of his character, and I just think that if he had the get up that he could put with some of these fancy suits he's got and just be the crazy character that he is becoming, I think it would work very well. As far as the queen, I would say Bianca Belair.
See, but when you just went Seth there, because I didn't even think about Seth, it immediately made me think Becky as the queen. And then them two just acting like a brand new Booker T and Charmel, but turned up to 27,000 with their sleaziness and their cockiness. Oh, I can almost see that happening now.
I want Seth and Becky as far away from each other as possible. I think Becky makes him not look so much like a star, even though his character is a lot different now than what it was in the past. And I think that if he can succeed at it, it's now. But I still don't want to risk that. I want them as far away from each other's storylines as possible. I just don't want that at all. But that's just a personal preference, and I just don't think Seth is as strong playing off of Becky Lynch.
I think it's a good chance to really elevate somebody as far as the Queen's tournament goes. I know there's a lot of people pulling for Liv Morgan. As far as that goes, I just don't know where you go with that character-wise, because usually the people who win these become super cocky, and that's how the character usually plays out. Unless it's kind of like just a one-off and it kind of sets the tone. But now that you said Seth, I know a lot of people are hoping for Xavier Woods. He's really pushing hard for that. I don't see it happening to him. How about the king being Bearcat, Keith Lee?
I love it.
And then on the female side, Baszler.
That could work. So she would be the queen and the spade. I don't know how that's.
Yeah, I mean, I just think instead of them walking around with the crowns on, it will be to elevate them. The way the King of the Ring tournament used to be.
Right.
Austin didn't wear the crown. Brett Nolan didn't wear the crown too much after that. Edge didn't wear the crown after that. Kurt Angle didn't wear the crown after that. Get back to that type of tournament where it's just elevate.
Yeah. Anything they can do to put some respect on Bearcat's name is something they need to do.
Oh, Bearcat.
Keith Lee is the man, and he needs to be showcased. And I'm really hoping that maybe this time around we'll get to see that.
Oh, the Bearcat name's a whole different story. Oh my gosh, how they ruined him and how they're already ruined Karrion Kross by not having Scarlett, and oh man, gosh, poor Austin Theory, poor Hit Row, poor Xylee, poor Rich Holland. Let's hope it doesn't happen to them as well. All right. Before we let everyone go, I want to make sure that we let everyone know that we do have a breast cancer awareness shirt up on PWTs at our shop there at Pro Wrestling Tees. Some of the benefits for that will go to someone that's local here by the name of Brittany Springer. I feel like everyone knows someone who has had cancer, and the financial struggles that these people go through are really rough. And so any help that we can kind of give to someone who's needing that help, we're going to try to do our best. So please, if you would like to show some support, go to Pro Wrestling Tees. Don't worry about buying any of our merchandise or other shirts. If you're going to purchase a shirt of ours, please purchase that shirt. It's only going to be up to the month of October. And I know the family of Brittany Springer, who's local here, would definitely also appreciate that. I also want to give a shout out to the guys at Toy Vomit in Lexington, Kentucky. Great hospitality. If you guys are ever in the Lexington, Kentucky area and you're looking for wrestling figures, oh, this is the place for you. And if you're looking for Star Wars figures or superheroes, great store, great setup. They've got everything from my childhood up. Make sure you guys check that out as well. Great hospitality from those guys from this weekend when I was up there as well. And of course, WWE's coming to Evansville. We got Evansville Toys and Games, Daniel Barrett. Great store as well. So if you're a collector and you're around this area, hit those two places up as well. Also, want to give send our sympathy out to, Tom and I have a shoot job, and that's the crazy thing is that we spend 90% of our time at the shoot job, and some of our co-workers become family. They become friends. And this past week, we lost a very good guy, a fellow Cub fan, Jody Cowan, and unexpectedly too. And it's really had an impact on our store. And want to send our sympathy out to his family as well. And, definitely tough times.
Yeah. It's been a week.
Yeah. So for everyone else out there, on a happier note, stay safe. Go out, enjoy some wrestling. Some great shows coming up. I just love getting on Twitter and seeing all these shows everywhere, and then getting jealous that they're nowhere close to me, because there are some amazing matches that are coming up all across the U.S. right now. I know Tom and I have our eye on a few shows that we're going to try to attend. We're going to do our best to maybe try to interview some talent as we show up to those shows as well. Again, everyone, make sure you all are staying safe, doing what you need to do, and we'll see y'all later in the week.